and welcome back to the Misty Morrison podcast. I'm your host, Misty Morrison, and this is episode 63 of Was I in the Wrong? Here on the Misty Morrison podcast, we love to read or listen, we love to give advice, we love to help people look back on their situations with that 2020 vision to see how they could have handled the situation more gracefully. Before we get into our stories for the day, our usual housekeeping, whether you are new or returning, please remember to engage with the content to help the channel grow, build a dream. Whether you are listening on podcast or YouTube long form posted on Tuesdays and Thursdays, or short form on shorts on YouTube, TikTok, Reels, and Instagram or Facebook. Shorts are posted 3 times daily. Wherever you are at, please leave a 5-star review, like, comment, share it with a friend, subscribe for more, all the things. Okay, and our stories for today. Story number 1 is coming to us from r/WIBTA_AITA. Would I be the asshole if I stopped letting my coworker borrow my lunch from the office fridge? So basically, I, 24 female, started meal prepping about 2 months ago because I was tired of spending money on takeout every day. I make these big portions of pasta or rice bowls on Sundays, pack them in labeled containers, and leave them in the shared fridge at work. The labeling thing is important because our fridge situation is a mess and stuff disappears all the time. About 3 weeks ago, I noticed my Tuesday container was half eaten. I thought maybe I miscounted or something, so I let it go. Then it happened again the following week, and this time like 2/3 of my chicken rice bowl was gone. I asked around quietly, and my colleague Jake, 27 male, basically shrugged and said, "Oh yeah, sorry, I was starving and forgot my lunch. I figured you wouldn't mind since you always have so much." He said it so casually, like it was completely normal. I was kind of stunned, so I just nodded and walked away. Since then, he's done it at least 4 more times and never once asked or offered to replace anything. Last week, I printed a bigger label that said, "Do not touch, personal lunch." And he still ate half my pasta. I mentioned it again and he laughed it off, saying, "Come on, it's just food." Now I'm thinking about bringing a small lunchbox cooler and keeping it at my desk instead of the fridge. Jake sits 2 desks away from me and we have to collaborate on projects regularly, so I really don't want things to get weird. But also, I worked hard on that food and I'm genuinely hungry by noon, when half of it is gone. My other coworkers think I should just confront him directly, but honestly, the 2 times I brought it up, he just brushed me off, so I doubt that would change anything. Would I be the asshole if I just quietly moved my lunch to my desk? No, not at all. Um, the fact that he didn't take the hint, one, when you asked, but then when you printed a bigger label that flat out said, "Do not touch, it's mine," and he doesn't respect you. He doesn't care about inconveniencing others. He's just like, "Oh, come on, it's just food." Yeah, it's my food, not yours. Leave it alone. It very basic common courtesy to not eat someone's food without asking. I could see if 2 people had bought something in the freezer section and it was exactly the same, you might eat the wrong one. But as long as you knew how many you had and you only ate what you had, it evens out. Because, I mean, if you ate the one on the right side of the fridge and yours was one on the left side of the fridge, but they were truly identical, same difference. But knowing it is someone else's food and then taking it without asking, I could see, like, if you really were starving and you didn't have time to, like, leave and take a lunch break or something, asking, say, "Hey, I didn't bring anything. I don't have time for a lunch. Is it okay if I eat this today?" That is different. To just take it because you want it and never say anything and then laugh when the person asks you about it. This is absurd. No. Honestly, I don't feel like you should have to move. You're right. But I don't feel like you should have to move your lunch from the communal fridge just because one person is being an asshole about common courtesy. So you're right. Move your lunch to your desk. And as far as you guys collaborating on projects regularly, If it gets weird, he made a choice for it to get weird, and at that point, I report it to HR. Because your food is yours to do what you want with. If you don't feel comfortable putting it in the company fridge because someone kept eating it, it is your right to not put your food in the communal fridge. Absolutely. If he gets weird about it, it's because he's upset. He's no longer getting free lunches. But if he does get upset about it, you go to HR and say, "Look, he's being weird. He's not working well with me anymore. He's upset that I'm not letting him eat my food anymore." Sounds like a him problem. You're right. I just don't understand people. And the very first comment says on here, put a large sign on the fridge that says, "Jake, please stop helping yourself to my lunch. You need to buy your own." Ooh, the public embarrassment. That could also be a good way to go. That would definitely make things awkward though, because then not only would you have Jake upset over that, but then everyone would know what you did, which considering they seem to be on his side telling you to just let it go, which is weird, you might end up with a lot more people upset with you that way. Story number 2 is coming to us from r/am I the jerk. AITJ for screaming at my new neighbor after she hosed down my 6-year-old daughter. Immediately now. So I, 30 female, have a 6-year-old daughter. My kid is super quiet and her absolute favorite thing to do is draw with chalk on our own driveway. She never goes near the property line. Last week, a new neighbor moved in next door. This neighbor seems to hate noise and kids. Yesterday, my daughter was drawing a big rainbow on our driveway. The neighbor marched over and told me that my kid needs to stop using chalk right away because the chalk dust is floating over and ruining the paint job on her new car. I told the neighbor that's impossible. Her car is parked way over on her side, and my daughter is just playing in her own space. The neighbor rolled her eyes and stomped off. I thought that was the end of it. Today, I was sitting on the porch watching my kid draw. Suddenly, the neighbor comes out with her garden hose. Without a single word, she points it directly at our driveway and turns it on full blast. The water completely washed away my daughter's drawing and it soaked her shoes and pants. My kid started crying immediately, as she should. I saw her, I ran over and screamed at the neighbor. The neighbor just smirked and said she was cleaning the dust off her property, and if my daughter got in the way, that is my fault for not controlling my kid. This neighbor is out of control. I called the neighbor an entitled bully and told her to stay away from my family or I would call the police. Why are you threatening her? Do it. You just watched what she did. Call the police right now. The neighbor retreated, but later she posted on our neighborhood Facebook group saying I am a hysterical neighbor who lets my kid vandalize the street. Some neighbors who were not there are taking her side because the neighbor played the victim so well. My husband thinks I should have handled it calmly to keep the peace since the neighbor is new. But you've got to understand, my kid was soaked and crying. So, AITJ for screaming at her. No. No. I mean, you handled the first indirection calmly. You said, "No, it's not possible that her dust is ruining your paint job. Your car's parked over there. Regardless of your paint job, my kid has the right to do what she wants and what I deem safe on our property. If you're so concerned about your paint job on your property, move it in the garage or park it further away. I don't know what to tell you. We can do what we want on our property." You handled it calmly the first time. And then she has the nerve to come back, and I feel like there's got to be some kind of legal recourse you could take with filing a police report because she hosed down your driveway. You had art, she destroyed it on your property. That bothers me. Besides the fact that the kid was there and she feels no sympathy, she feels no remorse for what she did. This is wild. The fact that so many people believed her when she's a new neighbor, they don't know her yet. And the fact that your husband's not on your side. So much of this is weird. But based on what is written, No, you're not the jerk for screaming at her. You handled it calmly the first time. When she escalated, you did too. Story number 3 is a total of 2 sentences. Um, Story number 3 is coming to us from r/AITA weddings. Destination wedding. Would I be the asshole to not attend my sister-in-law's destination wedding, 20-hour flying time, as I will have an 18-month-old and it's in a destination I've been and not particularly interested in visiting again? I will be supporting my partner in attending. No, no, you would not be the asshole for not attending. If your partner still wants to go, fine, if you're fine with that. But to expect someone with a less than 2-year-old to take a 20-hour flight for one day that's probably going to be really expensive for all the guests as well because it's a destination, I wouldn't expect someone to do that. I would hope that they would for me, but I would not expect it. 20 hours is a long flight. Story number 4 is coming to us from r/AITA weddings. AITA for disrespecting my dad whenever I get the chance. It's a bit long. I want to reason the title thoroughly. I am a teenage girl living with my dad and grandma. My great grandparents and grandpa used to live with us too, but sadly they passed away in the last few years. Don't get me wrong, I love my dad and I'm thankful for what he's given to me, even though it's his responsibility to give me a roof above my head, food on my plate, and love in my heart. I paused because I was like, wait, how old is this person? Teenager. Okay. But you see, sometimes, and that sometimes occurs too often, he's an asshole for no damn reason. He gets drunk, yells at my grandma, she cries, and I feel bad. It isn't that simple though. He used to be really rich before mom divorced him, having hundreds of thousands of dollars coming in every month. But he also had a gambling issue. He made all this money from gambling and then one day lost it all. Mom divorced him because he was abusive, FYI. They divorced in 2015. I was born a few years before that, so you can roughly guess my age, since I'm not going to say it here. Anyways, back in 2019, right before COVID hit, Dad went missing. And not the kind of missing that you'd call the police, the kind of missing where the person leaves willingly. He stayed missing for 2 years. He then appeared out of nowhere, $240,000 in debt. My grandpa had cancer, my grandma was a housewife, still is. So now they must muster up so much. So how could they muster up so much money? They paid back the debt with interest, mind you, somehow. My dad then stayed, but now his gambling and alcohol addiction have gotten worse. And I was in a bigger grade, so the fees were starting to go up too. Money fluctuated. Sometimes we were middle class, other times we were broke. Basic privileges like eating out, new clothes on festivals, celebrating birthdays, or visiting friends and cousins were scarce. But there was one common thing. Whether we were middle class or poor, my dad always came home drunk, and not tipsy, full-blown blackout drunk. All right, kids, time to count from 1 to 5. How fun. 1. Dad's girlfriend barged into our house late last night. We locked the door. Late at night. We locked the door. Later, Dad screamed at everyone. Even hit great-grandpa and yelled at my 93-year-old great-grandma. Now, 2. He was drunk and mansplained to my grandma how I was his child, obviously dork, and that he controls me. His exact words, I control when she would take a bath, eat, drink, even go to school. Yay, good job. Let's go for 3. I want a part of this property, said Dumbledore calmly, even though nobody had died yet for him to have his name in the will. I was hiding under my bed because he was looking for me with those murderous eyes. We're close to the comma, but not the end. You see, the number system doesn't stop at 5, and neither does my dad's weaponized incompetence. Number 4. Apparently I was scaring him. An adolescent frickin' teen. He screamed at everyone in the house saying that everyone has made me against him. No, darling, you yourself have. Anyways, number 5. Finally, he wanted to sell a safe, empty, but Grandma denied him from doing so. So the empty vault like thing was playing an important role in a case going on, so he couldn't just sell evidence. He then proceeded to snatch her phone, swiper, no, gosh darn swiping, but I snatched it back. Dora fights back, and I started arguing with him to tell him to back it off. Now the part we bring Now, the part we bring in the wedding, really late into it, I know. My dad and I went to a wedding, and there was alcohol there, obviously. He got drunk, flirted with one of the bridesmaids, but thankfully not the bad kind of flirting. The bridesmaid rejected his efforts, and he understood it. At least he could take a no, or so I thought. When the pastor, or whatever he's called, asked if anyone had any objections. Dead ass. Dad raised his arms and started hurling slurs, swears, and overall just throwing a fit. All eyes were on him, and me too, obviously. We were kicked out, and it was a destination wedding, so we had to stay in a hotel, which he couldn't afford, by the way. So he asked Mom for money. After the wedding, relatives came to ask me what happened. I didn't hesitate to disrespect him thoroughly. So we conclude my dad isn't exactly a good guy. Sure, he was rich and gave grandma, grandpa, great grandpa, and great grandma a lot of privileges, but that was his responsibility. He and I get along well now most of the time, since he's going to die in the next few years because of alcohol poisoning and something. But every chance I get, I always mock him for being a 45-year-old man and still acting like a freaking bitch for stuff that nobody would whine for. I have lost sight of the question. So, AITA. And so the title was AITA for disrespecting my dad whenever I get the chance. It doesn't sound like you really deliberately disrespected him. It sounds like you told the truth. And yes, there are kinder ways to tell the truth than being brutal. But this just sounds like you told the truth, and I'm glad you did. Story number 5 is coming to us from r/am I the jerk. AITJ for canceling my wedding venue because my fiance secretly gave my late dad's vintage camera to his mom and she ruined it. I, 37 female, am absolutely heartbroken and my whole life feels like a mess right now. I need an outside perspective because my fiance's family is making me feel crazy. That's a good cue to start with. My dad passed away 5 years ago. We bonded over photography, and his most prized possession was an old vintage, I never knew how to say this brand name, Leica, it's Leica, was an old vintage Leica camera. When he passed, he left it to me. I only use it for very special occasions because the aesthetic is beautiful, but it's incredibly fragile and irreplaceable to me. My future mother-in-law recently decided to go on a 2-week tropical cruise. A few weeks ago, she came over for dinner and asked if she could borrow my vintage camera for the trip. She said she wanted artsy photos. I politely but firmly said no. Okay, this is good. I explained how sentimental it is and that I don't let anyone handle it. I even offered to buy her a really nice, easy-to-use digital camera as an early Mother's Day gift instead. Wow, okay. She rolled her eyes and called me selfish, but I stood my ground. Good for you. The nerve of someone to call you selfish when you're literally saying, this is my boundary, this is my property, I won't let you take my property, but I'll buy you something of your own instead, and has the nerve to say you're selfish. Fast forward to yesterday. She got back from her cruise. I went to grab my camera from my closet to clean it, and the case was empty. I started panicking. My fiance came into the room and calmly told me to relax. He confessed that while I was at work, he packed my dad's camera into his mom's suitcase. He told me I was being unreasonable and hoarding it, and that his mom deserved nice pictures. I immediately drove to his mom's house and demanded it back. She handed me a plastic grocery bag. Inside was my dad's camera. The lens was completely shattered, and the body was full of sand and water damage. I started sobbing. She just scoffed and said, "It's just an old piece of junk anyway." It slipped out of my hands on the beach. I'll just buy you a new one from the mall. No, no, you won't. This is awful. I did not even yell. I just took the bag, drove home, packed a bag, and went to a hotel. Also good for you. This morning, I called our wedding venue and canceled our deposit. My fiance is calling up my phone saying I'm overreacting over a material object and throwing away our entire future. No, you did. She's not overreacting over a material object. She's overreacting about the last piece she had connecting her to her dad, and you knew it. His family is calling me unhinged. Was it not unhinged for him to make his own decision, go behind your back about your property, and just take it from you and give it away? That's what's unhinged. I feel like my trust is completely shattered, as it should be. But part of me wonders if canceling the venue was too extreme. Am I the jerk? No. No, you are right because it doesn't sound like you guys need to be getting married if he cannot respect your decisions about what is yours. You're not married yet. You have separate property. He knew. You told him how important this camera was to you, what it meant to you. He knew it was irreplaceable. But he decided that mommy knows best and gave her the camera, not even trying to override your decision, but keeping you in the dark about it to make sure she would get to take it. It was a betrayal. It was truly a betrayal. And I mean, they can't come back from it. She ruined it. Maybe you can take it and get it repaired. I would definitely take it to a good camera store, see if it can be repaired. And regardless of whether or not it can be repaired, send her the receipt. Charge her for it. Depending on the worth of the camera and based on their careless reactions, I would probably take her to small claims court. I know no amount of money can replace the camera, but at least you can make her suffer. And sometimes that's the best consolation prize you can get. Wow. Okay, that is 5. I gotta check. Yes, that is 5 stories for this week's episode of Was I in the Wrong? Thank you so much for being here for another episode of the Misty Morrison podcast, and I'll see you guys next time. Remember, kindness changes everything. Bye.